Howdy, parents. I know a lot of you that I've been talking to have said that you are reading with your kids at home, which is awesome. Thank you for that. Um, and so I just wanted to give a short little video about how to read with your kid at home. You know, I went to school for quite a few years to learn how to do read alouds and what to look for and how to use books and how to choose books for different reasons. And I'm pretty sure your guys' education and degrees are in things other than teaching. So let's take this trip together, and I'm going to teach you a little bit more about how to read with your kids at home. The book I'm going to be reading to them is Goodnight, Oregon. The first thing that I do is introduce the book. I read the title. I also read the author and the illustrator. You can ask them if they know what an author and an illustrator are, and maybe ask them if they could be an author and illustrator, which one they would prefer and why. And that would be a really good writing prompt. See? Went right from doing a read aloud to making your kid write something. Which would they rather be, an author or an illustrator? See how easy those connections get made when you're thinking that way, huh? Teacher brain. Anywho, another thing that you can do is have your child find words on the page, okay? So in this first part, we have good morning repeating itself. So you can ask them, how many times do you find the word good? How many times can you find the word morning? Can also talk about punctuation, things like question marks and exclamation points. Playing I Spy on the page. I spy a word that starts with H. I spy a word that ends with Y. Using the picture to play games as well. Making connections. That's a big one. What is happening in the story that makes you think of something that's happened in your own life or in a different story you've read? The levels of text connections go text to self, which is really basic. Text to text, which is talking about connections that you have between different books. And text to the world. What's happening in the book that is affecting the whole entire world. It gets a little bit bigger as you go up. Another thing that I like to do with students when I'm reading a book is share my own personal experiences. So when I'm going to read this page, I'm going to talk about how I've never been to Crater Lake and I'd really like to go. And that's legitimate. Like I legitimately in the 13 years I've been living in Oregon. 23 years. I know how to do math, people. I swear I'm teaching your kids math the right way. That I've lived in Oregon. I've never been to Crater Lake, and I really want to. So when I'm doing read alouds with kids, I try to make genuine connections. I try to genuinely engage with the book. Because if you're faking it, they kind of know. Maybe you've experienced that with your kids at home, huh? You don't have to stop and make connections on every single page. But once you finish reading the story, you can always go back and talk about things. It's always good to share their favorite part of the story and also to say why it's their favorite part of the story. I liked the windsurfing page. Okay, well, why, honey? Why did you like the windsurfing page? What was it about the windsurfing page that you liked? Doing retells. Now, this book isn't perfectly fitted for the 5-finger retell, but 5-finger retell, hopefully your kids talk about it, or maybe you saw the posters when we were in class, but 5-finger retell is telling the characters, setting, and then the sequence of events, which is beginning, middle, and end. Now, this book does have some characters in it, right? It's got the little boy and the little girl. They would be the main characters, and a lot of your kids have got that, and they've got it well. The setting is all over Oregon, right? Like the whole entire state, north to south, east to west. What happens in the beginning, it's daytime. What happens in the middle, it's afternoon, they're traveling. What happens at the end, they're getting ready to go to bed. It's not perfectly suited for a 5-finger retell like other fiction books that we read in class, but you could do something with it and kind of get started with it. So remember that 5-finger retell for fiction books is characters, setting, beginning, middle, end. This book doesn't really have a heart of the story. You could say that the heart of the story is at the end when the kids are going to bed, but talking about the heart of the story or the life lesson that we learn from fiction books. You know, nonfiction books, informative books, they teach us things. They teach us about science. They teach us about space. They teach us about our emotions. They teach us about a lot of stuff. Fiction books also teach us something, but they don't necessarily teach us information about content or about a subject. They teach us a life lesson. So that's how that's the language that I use with your kids in class. What's the heart of the story? And usually we have a little heart in the palm of our hand for our poster, for our anchor chart. And we also use the term life lesson because there's a difference between an informative lesson based in content of science, math, and social studies, as opposed to a life lesson that we learn that helps us with our lives in some way, helps us to learn a moral, right? That's what we grew up learning, what was the moral of the story. So I hope that helped a little bit. I have disabled comments for these videos, not by choice, but because I'm posting them as public videos for children. So when you do that, you can't like it, you can't make comments, but feel free to talk to me through the Remind app and let me know if you found this helpful, if you have any more questions, right? Okay, happy teaching.